Welcome to the Friends with Money podcast, brought to you by Money Magazine, creating financial freedom for Australians since 1999.
Welcome to the Friends with Money podcast. I'm Vanessa Walker, the managing editor of Money. Today, we are talking to home and property journalist Georgia Madden about what it actually costs to own a home. Let me tell you, it's a lot more than the purchase price. Why are we tackling this subject now? Because the government has made first-time home ownership a huge policy priority, in fact, a defining legacy. They want younger people to be able to afford homes. Not only did the government introduce the 5% deposit scheme, they orientated the federal budget to rebalance the economic advantages older generations have enjoyed by building wealth through property ownership, which also had the effect of locking younger generations out of ownership. Because today, it takes 9 to 10 times the average annual income to buy a home in our major cities. Back in 1984, it took 3.3 times the average income to buy a home. Now, that's all very grand. Getting on the property ladder is important financially, for building a family, and for putting down roots in a community. But what happens once you are in a home? Let's start with the most obvious expense, your mortgage. Georgia, can you break down mortgages for us?
Sure. So this is probably the number people think most about when they own a home. But what surprises a lot of people is how little of those early repayments are actually paying down the loan itself. In the beginning, a huge chunk of your repayments is actually just interest. So one broker I spoke to said that in the early days of a $610,000 loan, nearly $3,000 of a $3,600 monthly mortgage could just be interest. So even though you're paying thousands a month, a lot of that money is going straight to the bank rather than building equity in your home. In those first few years, you can end up paying over $170,000 in interest while knocking less than $50,000 off the loan itself. That really surprised me when I was researching this story. Another thing that really struck me was how much of a difference even a small rate rise could make. Just a 1% rate rise can add hundreds of dollars a month to your outgoings and potentially over $100,000 over the life of your loan. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. There's also opportunities to save money here. Think refinancing, renegotiating your loan, or using an offset account properly. All of these can save you thousands a year.
Good to know. So for most of us, our home is our biggest asset. Tell us about insurance and protecting that home. What does it cost to protect this major asset?
I think insurance is one of those things that people really don't think about until something goes wrong. And then it's really important. For a lot of homeowners, building and contents insurance costs somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a year. But that can climb pretty fast if you live in a high-risk area, say somewhere prone to floods or bushfires. If you're in one of those areas, you can easily end up paying $5,000 or $10,000, even more.
And what is the biggest mistake that people make when insuring their home?
Honestly, I would say not having enough cover. A lot of people insure based on what they paid for their home rather than what it would actually cost to rebuild it today. And if you think how much construction costs have risen in recent years, that gap can be huge. So the key, if you want to avoid this, is to review your cover annually and make sure it's up to date. And make sure it includes all those little extra costs as well, like demolition, debris removal, rebuilding costs, not just the structure of the house itself, full rebuilding costs. It's also potentially worth getting someone in to properly estimate what it would cost to rebuild your home, because a lot of the default estimates people rely on these days, they're pretty outdated.
Now, running a home, this is sometimes the biggest shock to new homeowners, the ongoing, quite large bills. Tell us how much people need to pay for, say, heating and cooling.
Well, I think most of us pay between about $2,000 and $3,000 a year for energy costs like these. But if your home leaks heat or doesn't stay cool properly, it can cost thousands more than that. All the experts that I spoke to for this story kept coming back to the same message. Before you think about spending big on those fancy upgrades, fix the basics first. That means things like sealing drafts, improving your insulation, and upgrading your inefficient heating or cooling. If your home leaks heat in winter or traps it in summer, you're basically paying to heat and cool the outdoors. Not a very good investment strategy.
Now, what about installing solar? That pays off in reduced bills, but what about the upfront costs?
So a standard solar system will set you back sort of between about $8,000 and $10,000. If you add batteries to that, it pushes the price to probably between about $16,000 and $20,000, even more. But the good news that I discovered in this story is the payback period can be much quicker than you'd expect. Depending on where you live and how much energy you consume, sometimes in as little as 4 years. That really surprised me. The size is really important here too. The big thing experts said is not to overspend on that huge system you don't actually need. The key to getting the best savings is to match the system size to how much power your household actually uses.
Maintenance. In general, how much should people put aside relative to the value of their home?
So, according to the pros, we should be setting aside between 1% and 3% of our property's value every year for maintenance and repairs. So, if you've got a $1 million home, that's sort of between about $10,000 and $30,000 annually. I mean, obviously, you're not likely to spend all of that every single year, but over time, there's no denying your home is always going to need some fixing somewhere, some updating or some maintaining. So it's important to have that pot there. And every expert I spoke to basically said the same thing. Focus on fixing small problems early. It's always cheaper than waiting until something breaks. For example, something as simple as cleaning your gutters regularly can save you from massive roof repair bills later down the line.
And if you're spending 1% to 3% on maintenance, you could have that in your offset account, so it's offsetting the interest on your mortgage anyway, right?
That's an excellent strategy, Vanessa, yes.
Now, take us through all the things we do to maintain our homes, plus all the pesky costs. So we're talking electrical wiring, plumbing, gas, roofing, structural integrity. What do we need to be thinking about?
So I guess the first thing to realize is the expensive stuff is usually the stuff you can't actually see. So that little leak under the sink could turn into major water damage if you leave it unchecked. Those blocked gutters that you're not looking at can cause roof or structural problems. And once you start opening up walls in an older home, if that's what you've got, you might suddenly discover asbestos or some seriously dangerously outdated wiring. One plumber told me that fixing burst pipes can cost anywhere from a couple of $1,000s to over $10,000. If you're thinking major sewer repairs, you're looking at $20,000, even more. Electrical problems can also get expensive really fast, especially in an older home. Roofing issues are another big one because by the time you notice a little leak inside, the damage can already be much bigger. So again, if you want to keep maintenance and repair costs down, it's crucial to keep up with those maintenance tasks. Service your hot water system and your heating and cooling system annually, watch for leaks and fix those small issues.
Rates. Tell us about rates. How much are they going to dent our pocket?
Yes, those pesky little bills that always turn up at the most inconvenient time. So most of us are so focused on our mortgage that we sometimes forget about things like council rates and water charges. And they can easily add another $2,000 to $4,000 a year to the running of your home. And unlike your mortgage, these are bills that aren't going to disappear over time. In fact, they just keep going up alongside council budgets and property values. So be sure to factor them into your budget.
What about people who live in apartments who may not have to arrange their own repairs, etc., but who pay for property maintenance through strata fees? What's the typical kind of price range that they might have to pay per annum?
Well, it really depends on where you buy into. If you're talking a sort of low-rise apartment or townhouse, annual strata fees usually sit between about $2,000 and $6,000 a year. But if you're talking a large or very luxurious building, that can easily jump to $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 annually. And then there are special levies, which are basically surprise bills you can suddenly get hit with if your building needs major repairs. That could be things like cladding issues, waterproofing, fixing the lifts, roofing, all the glamorous stuff. So one expert shared some great advice on this for people looking at buying an apartment. Always check your complex's sinking fund and financial history before you sign, because basically you want to know that the building actually has money set aside for future repairs and that owners, in other words, you, aren't suddenly going to get hit with a nasty big bill.
I think I've heard a lot of cautionary tales about that, people not checking buying in based on the look and the feel of the apartment without realising there's a whole lot of, necessary big structural works that need to be done and there's no savings in the account, essentially.
Exactly. And if you're a first-time home buyer and you're on a tight budget, these bills can be devastating.
Yeah, exactly. Georgia, Thank you so much for illuminating the actual costs of home ownership. If you'd like to read more, and you can read Georgia's story, complete with financial breakdowns, all these figures that she's been talking about. That's in the June issue of Money, which is on sale now. Georgia, thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me, Vanessa. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Friends with Money podcast. For credible, independent, and easy to understand financial commentary, visit moneymag.com.au. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are general in nature, and further independent advice and research based on your personal circumstances should be sought before making an investment decision.